So let me get this straight. Chairman James Comer, this chairman, he subpoenaed every living attorney general, a couple FBI directors, and oh yeah, the Clintons, Bill and Hillary, because Epstein, because justice for survivors, because we need answers, right? Beautiful. Except here's what happened when Alberto Gonzales, the AG actually in office during the sweetheart deal that let Epstein walk in 2008, when he got subpoenaed, one sentence: I have no present memory. And Comer said, cool, we're good. No follow-up, no contempt, no, you don't get to dictate terms lecture, just compliance. Meanwhile, Bill Clinton submits a 6-page declaration under penalty of perjury, negotiates to testify, and Comer's response is contempt of Congress, lock him up, criminal charges. Yeah, worse. And I'm sure that's just a coincidence that Gonzales is a Republican and Clinton is a Democrat. Shocking, I know. Watch this madness and I'll break it down at the end. As usual, let's watch what happened and I will give you my breakdown later.
Thank you, Representative Brown. I just want to Chairman, I want to just respond to something that you said. I think it's important. First, I just want to read the folks of who the subpoenas you have chosen not to enforce. Alberto Gonzales, who we subpoenaed on that same day, I believe you did not enforce. Eric Holder, of course, former AG, did not enforce. Loretta Lynch, you chose not to enforce. Jeff Sessions, you chose not to enforce. Merrick Garland, who I think it'd be important to have answer questions, you chose not to enforce. Robert James Comey, you chose not to enforce. In fact, I have Attorney General Gonzales's letter. It says, Dear Chairman Comer, this letter is to confirm that consistent with my conversations with the committee general counsel, I have no present memory or decisions or conversations related to the investigation and prosecution of Epstein matter during my tenure as U.S. Attorney General. He, of course, was the Attorney General when the whole Alex Acosta U.S. Attorney matter was in front of a critical time in this investigation. Now, you chose not to enforce that because you mentioned that this letter is under penalty of perjury. The declaration that Clintons also made and sent to you to answer some of those questions were also under penalty of perjury. I just want to clarify that. And then with the remainder of my time, Mr. Chairman, I think it's important to note that you've talked a lot about the importance of our subpoenas and that we should all support this committee's subpoenas. And I agree with you, sir, and I want to hear from the Clintons. It's also important to note that we have members of this committee, Congressman Jim Jordan, Congressman Andy Biggs, Congressman Scott Perry, who are obviously very outspoken, which we like to engage with. Now, they're not here, and that's okay. Now, you also know, sir, that all three of them defied legally binding subpoenas issued by the January 6th committee relating to their efforts to overturn the 2020 election. So we should be clear that the majority chooses to be very selective on which subpoenas they want to enforce or talk about. We have members of the majority that themselves have defied subpoenas. So once again, I ask you, Mr. Chairman, let's ask President Clinton the questions that we have. Let's have him come in and testify in a way that we can negotiate, and let's get all the release of the files done immediately. Thank you.
Would you yield? Could I respond to that?
Sure, I have no more time, but I'm happy to respond.
So you say we didn't enforce the subpoenas. We did enforce. They complied and testified under the penalty of perjury that they had no knowledge. Now, the Clinton declarations were short bullet points, almost like talking points. And the evidence is clear that the Clintons did have relationship with them. Now, again, I've said publicly millions of times, there's no one's accusing the Clintons of wrongdoing, but the fact that they were that close, and the fact that I've never seen a sit-down interview with Bill Clinton where he's answered questions about his relationship with Epstein and Maxwell like the current president has. So we have complied and enforced all of our subpoenas, 100% of our subpoenas. So I just want to make that very clear.
Can I respond to you, sir? Sure. Just to be clear, you're talking about two declarations. The declaration that you chose to use as something that you moved on to not bring him in was 1/6 the size of the Clinton declaration. I'm looking at the Alberto Gonzales response to you, sir, that you chose to dismiss, and it is one sentence long. You just pointed out the Clinton declaration, which is 6 times as long. And so I just think you are using interesting points to make comparisons. Let's just be clear and get back to the facts. Let's bring President Clinton in to have a conversation with this committee. You are instead choosing to try to prosecute President Clinton and send him to jail which is part of criminal prosecution, before having him answer questions to this committee. Him and his team have been trying to negotiate. We want to hear from President Clinton. I'm not sure that you do, sir.
You don't think I want to hear from President
Chairman
Clinton?
Comer, can I, Chairman?
But before I recognize Ms. Luna, who'll be next, I believe, are you willing to accept those bullet points as testimony, or do you want to hear from Clinton?
I want to hear from President Clinton.
Then I don't know what the point is of talking about their bullet points. I mean, that we all know they had a relationship. So,
Well, sir, I'm just responding to the fact that you mentioned that you're dismissing other legal subpoenas with one-sentence answers. And you're the one that pointed out the Clinton's declaration, which is also under penalty of perjury.
do you think that Eric Holder or Lynch or Jeff Sessions or Merrick Garland had more? I mean, do you want to bring them all in?
I would love to have former Attorney General Merrick Garland in front of this committee to answer questions as to why more of the files weren't released. I've actually said that publicly. And so, sir, I think what it comes down to is we all want to get to the truth. We all want justice for the survivors. And I think more information is better. And so I think our position is that it is clear to me that President Clinton is negotiating to come in front of this committee. And it may not be exactly what you and the lawyer and your team want to see as far as that negotiation, or you're not satisfied with the progress, but they continue to negotiate. They have not rolled out a transcript. Let's get them in front of this committee. Thank you, sir.
Chair recognizes Mr. Gill, then Ms. Lona. Mr. Gill.
Okay, so if you watched that and felt your blood pressure go up, you're not crazy. You're just paying attention. Here's what Chairman Comer conveniently ignores. Alberto Gonzales was the Attorney General of the United States when Alex Acosta cut the infamous sweetheart deal that gave Epstein basically a slap on the wrist for sex trafficking minors. Gonzales's tenure, 2005 to 2007, covers the exact period when the DOJ could have actually intervened in Epstein's Florida prosecution. And his response? One sentence. No present memory. I'm sure that's just a coincidence that Comer accepted that without demanding a deposition. Full stop. Here's what they don't want you to know. According to the Congressional Research Service, which, unlike Chairman Comer, I actually looked up, contempt of Congress is supposed to be the last resort when negotiations fail, not the opening bid when someone offers to negotiate. The Clintons submitted sworn declarations under penalty of perjury, 6 pages, bullet points answering specific questions, and immediately opened negotiations for transcribed testimony. But Comer's response? Smash, grab, run, straight to criminal contempt, maximum penalty, $100,000 fine, up to a year in prison. That tracks. That tracks perfectly if your goal isn't truth, it's theater. And let's talk about the pattern here, because that's what this is. It's not about Epstein. It's not about justice for survivors. It's about using the Epstein tragedy as a weapon against political enemies while shielding allies. Pattern: Republican AGs get one-sentence passes. Democratic former presidents get contempt charges. Pattern: Jim Jordan, Andy Biggs, and Scott Perry, actual sitting members of this committee, defied subpoenas from the January 6th committee. They faced 0 consequences. 0. In fact, 2 of them are now running the very committee that's supposed to enforce subpoenas. I'm sure that's just a coincidence too. It's like if your boss asked you to work overtime for free so he could buy his golf buddy a boat, and then fired you for asking about your paycheck. That's not oversight. That's a protection racket with letterhead. Here's what this means for you. When they tell you this is about justice for survivors, ask them why Gonzales gets a pass for the period when the DOJ actually could have stopped Epstein. Ask them why the committee isn't subpoenaing the current Attorney General, Pam Bondi, who's actually sitting on the files right now. Ask them why the 3 guys who defied subpoenas to protect Donald Trump are now in charge of punishing people for defying subpoenas. What does this mean for you? It means the rule of law is just a phrase they use when they want to lock up their enemies. It means your tax dollars are paying for performance art instead of actual oversight. It means when they say no one is above the law, they mean no Democrat is above the law and no Republican is beneath our protection. That's not congressional oversight. That's a protection racket with C-SPAN cameras. So here's the simple line you can use when someone asks, why are you defending the Clintons? You're not defending the Clintons. You're defending the principle that subpoena power shouldn't be a partisan weapon, that justice shouldn't depend on your voter registration, and that Alberto Gonzales doesn't get to skate on 1 sentence while Bill Clinton faces prison for 6 pages and a negotiation offer. Hit subscribe, click the notification bell, share this with someone who still thinks both parties play by the same rules. That's it. That's the whole thing.